Hello and welcome to Leave the Feed 30 Days of Disconnect. Today is 25, getting close to the end, reconnecting with humanity. This section is players on the stage, and we're all just players on the stage of life. And with me right now is an epic player on the stage of life, an actor, a comedian, a mental health advocate, and just a great guy, Eric Artell. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. Thank you. and and if somebody came to this on a feed, you're supposed to be leaving the feed too. So we'll encourage you if they came across this on a feed. No, I'm really thrilled to be here and to talk about some of these topics, James. I feel very passionately about them.
Awesome. Great. Well, let's start with your story. How did your whole journey unfold in the world of entertainment, content creation? Talk about like what was the spark and some of the milestones that led you to where you are today.
Well, I moved to Los Angeles a number of years ago to act, to be a full-time actor, and or to pursue acting, I should say, with the hope that I would be able to make a career out of it. And I was very lucky enough and blessed enough to be a full-time actor for a number of years. And, TV, commercials, voiceover, I've pretty much done everything under the sun when it comes to the acting career and entertainment industry. And so doing, I kind of fell backwards into content creation. There was a digital network that was starting up, and this is when kind of YouTube was starting to get really coming into its own when it comes to content creation, when Vine was exploded on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pitched a show to this digital network, and I was doing a daily show, and that led to being connected with a lot of creators, working with creators. And then that led to being a part of creator development and helping develop a lot of creators and becoming an influencer creator myself.
And talk about what you create. Like what is
Silliness.
your story? Yeah, silliness.
No, I look, I from when I first really felt strongly that I wanted to be an actor. One of the extraordinarily powerful motivations in that was to positively affect other people. So I still remember a very visceral experience where I was in a community theater show in this small little in the round theater in Linden, Utah, and like the most community theater you could get. And just playing a very silly character, and it's wonderful the what we're going to be talking about today, like the characters of life. I was playing a very silly character, and there were some people that were in the front row, which meant their feet were in our stage space, just laughing and laughing and laughing, and not really because of what I was doing, but just because of enjoying the show. And then after the show, they were still laughing, and it was amazing, that experience of having that positive impact on someone. Who knows what they were going through in life that day or that week or that month. But in that moment of time, they were putting a lot of things aside and were just enjoying life, and were enjoying joy and happiness. And that was a very, very powerful experience for me. And so going into entertainment and going into acting, that has been a motivating factor, or something that has affected how I've wanted to go about doing things. And so when it comes to content creation and digital content creation, I've always just thought, well, what would be fun to watch? What would be kind of enjoyable or fun? What might put a smile on someone's face? And I've done some serious things in my life as an actor. I've done serious work. Even on the social media, I've kind of delved into some more serious stuff. But for the most part, it's been about finding a joyful moment, something that I thought might put a smile on someone's face. So that's kind of been the motivation, or how I have gone about in my influencer career and in my content creation career. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. I'm sure there are people have watched. I watched some of my stuff. I just think, what on earth was I doing? Why? Like, why did I think that would make someone smile? But I think it does still make people smile. I mean, people will still message me things, and I'll think, wow, well, I am grateful that I'm humbled that positively affected your day. And so as we, talk about mental health, and as we talk about these types of things, it all is so related. But really, I think, without knowing it and knowing where my life was going to be today and what I'm focused on today, there was that motivation to positively affect people's mental health.
Well, you're
And
doing an awesome job because I'm not typically on social media, but obviously as having you a guest, I wanted to check out your feeds and I loved Bad Rapper. I think it was
oh
called
my
Bad
goodness,
Rapper. This
oh
it
my
was
goodness, James, that is one of my favorite series that I've done.
hilarious,
And
hilarious.
I feel like it didn't get the love that it should have gotten. But I will say, and for those who don't know what James is talking about, I did this series where I was a rapper starting to like lay down a rap beat, and I would come across a rhyme which was usually very self-deprecating. It was usually something that was like embarrassing about me. And what was so fun about that, James, it was that at the time when I was getting a lot of traction as an influencer, I put out a challenge to people to like use those use those rap beats. And there were kids who were sending me the most delightful videos of them, lip syncing my rap, but role playing it and it was so fun, so delightful. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Oh man, those were fun. I should bring that back. I should roll it back. That was really fun to do.
Well, I love the story of you being in the theater and seeing that joy and bringing that joy into people's life. And then as a influencer now, content creator, being able to really harness that and bring that into the world. It's really powerful, but creation doesn't come with challenges and being human doesn't come with challenges. And we all at one point or another struggle with mental health. And curious about your experience just in the world of Hollywood, content creation, and the impact it's had on you.
Social media's impact on mental health, and someone who is a creator creating content for social media, there are a lot of mental health pitfalls. And I've seen it in a lot of my friends. The whole mechanism of getting likes and getting engagement and tying your self-worth to that is extraordinarily tempting and extraordinarily damaging. And I have seen and experienced myself. I mean, putting something out there, and you're putting something out there. I mean, you're being vulnerable, right? You're making something, even if it is heavily edited, you're still being vulnerable, putting something out there for complete strangers to see. And I mean, we could talk for hours about people when they unleash their negativity within the anonymity of being able to comment on things, because it is brutal. And unless you've experienced it, I don't think you can appreciate how difficult it is. People can't appreciate how difficult it is to read just very hurtful comments from someone that you don't know who they are, and they're launching hurt comments at you. It is very, very challenging. That is very challenging. But then to pair that with you're putting this stuff out there, and even if it doesn't receive hate or meanness and unkindness, but just doesn't get the engagement or the likes that you would want, that's really challenging mental health wise, because because the temptation is to tie your self-worth to that. And so if it goes out there and people are not saying that they like it by liking it or commenting, you feel like they don't like it, and therefore they don't like you, and therefore you're worthless. And that is a very, very dangerous path to be on. And so certainly something that I think is very important as a content creator, as anyone who's putting content out on social media, is to be very intentional with where you define, how you define your self-worth, and realizing who you are and why you are valuable as a person to other people. I'm a very religious person. I'm a very God-fearing person. I strongly believe we're all children of God, and that is where our worth is. And therefore, the social media content, that doesn't affect that relationship. That doesn't affect me knowing who I am and believing who I am and my worth to my wife and to my children and to my family and to my friends. But it's challenging. It is dangerous. I think that's one of the dangers of social media to mental health on the creator side. And then on the consumer side, there's a litany of things on the consumer side for people who are just, right, stopping the scroll, people or leaving the feed, the people who are just on a feed and consuming content, and how that can affect our mental health as a consumer of social media. That is extraordinarily dangerous also. And I think it can also be very positive. There is the good, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. There is great things. As a parent, I love coming across content that helps me in, my wife and I share videos back and forth. I think a lot of couples do this, where they're just DMing videos back and forth to each other. And sometimes we have a great time laughing about it. Sometimes it's stuff that is very relatable as parents or as couples, and we can laugh about it. Other times it's stuff that is important parenting concepts, and that can be very, very beneficial for us. But there is a flip side to that coin. There is another edge to that sword. And I know it's been talked about endlessly in other venues and on other platforms, but the idea of comparing yourself to something. And so, for instance, as a parent, I might see a video in my feed, and it might talk about how I should be handling a child who's having an anxious day. And I can take that and try to implement it as possibly a piece of advice, and I can use that for good. Or I might see that and feel like I'm a terrible parent. I'm not doing this. I'm worthless. I'm failing my child. I'm failing my spouse. I'm failing my family. So there is that other edge of a sword, even on the same exact piece of content that I might see in my feed. I could go one way or the other when it comes to my mental health. And I think we all need to recognize that.
So how does Nerd HQ fit into this whole equation?
Well, no, I thank you for asking about that. So Nerd HQ, I'm not the founder of Nerd HQ. Zachary Levi, the actor Zachary Levi, founded Nerd HQ. It's a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. And it is a mental health focused nonprofit. It has its beginnings because Zach Levi, who is a world famous actor, who many people who would know him and have seen him, particularly in 7-8 years ago, would have thought he's the top of the world, has everything going for him. And he experienced a huge mental health crisis with anxiety and depression. He's written a couple of books about this, to the point where he didn't know if he wanted to keep on going. And therapy helped save his life. Mental health services and therapy was one of the things that helped save his life, as he's been very open about talking about. But it's expensive. therapy can be very expensive.
Yeah.
And he recognized that, and he thought, you know, let's see if we can help as many people as possible to get therapy, even if they can't afford it. So Nerd HQ as a nonprofit was born, and our main mission is to provide access to free therapy for people who can't afford it. We're all nerdy about something. We like to say that we're nerds for mental health, and we're all nerdy about something, whether it's comics or Marvel or animation or football or plumbing or accounting or economics or whatever it might be, right? Gardening, baking. We're all nerdy about something. And so we are all nerds. And so Nerd HQ is to help all of us be focused on mental health and to help those who are in need try to get access to therapy. So we are now funding, as of this recording, if you will, we are funding therapy and mental health services for over 300 people right now.
Wow.
And it's just very humbling, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be involved. And I'm the executive director of the nonprofit, and Zach called me up and asked me to help kind of spin it up off the ground and get it in to become a functional nonprofit. And it's just very humbling to be a part of it and to know that for these individuals who didn't have the opportunity to get the help that they needed are now able to get help that they need. And to think of the ripple effect that that causes, because it's not just an individual getting help and being able to have, you know, a healthier mind and a happier heart, but it's their close friends, it's their family, it will be positively affected. And there's an incredible ripple effect that comes from people who are bettering themselves in the mental health arena. Just as there's a tragic ripple effect when there isn't that help, and when someone is struggling with mental health, and there is a ripple effect that happens on a difficult side, if you will. So I'm just very grateful that we're doing this with Nerd HQ, and we're able to help as many people as we are, and we are just looking to try to help more and more people. People can go to nerdhq.org to access therapy if they need it and if they can't afford it, or to go and consider donating to help other people get that help. They can go to nerdhq.org.
Incredible mission and really powerful. And yeah, we're all nerding out on something. And you're right. Like, for those that need help, it creates not just a ripple effect for their inner circle, but really the whole world. And let's go back to some joy, right? Let's go back to some joy right now. Let's get out of the darkness into the light, because today's whole lesson is about acceptance and appreciation for all of the walks of life in this world. And I think social media, you brought up, it's easy to throw shade, to tear people down, but we have the ability as humans to share a connected consciousness offline and lift each other up and be advocates for each other. So I'm curious, because you do so many fun interviews, whether it's in a pizza shop with LeBron James or people at, different festivals and total geeked out clothes. Tell me what you love about the characters that this world has to offer, all these different players on the stage.
Oh my goodness, James. Human connection is so extraordinarily important, is so important. I from a lot of the content that I've done and getting to talk to people and doing man on the street, if you will, it's so fun to connect with people that way. And I know this idea of, I think one of the ways that you've put it is it micro connections or having
micro moments?
Micro moments. Thank you. Yes. Micro moments. Those can bring such incredible joy in our lives, and with people that we don't even know. I'll never forget, James, a number of years ago, and I'm sure people have had the same experience. I was sitting in I think it was a California pizza kitchen here in California, in Los Angeles area. Which is a place where, sitting down, we're having some food with a friend of mine, and we're chatting, and we look over to the table next to us. And this was a couple of decades ago, but we look over to the table next to us. and a guy and a girl who obviously were some sort of relationship, I think, probably, but they were both just on their phones and not talking at all for it seemed like the whole entire time. And at that time, and this was before, I think this was before Instagram, I don't know. A lot of the social media things were very, very new. And I held off on having a smartphone for for a long time. So my friend and I, we just made it was interesting having this observation of, my goodness, they are not connecting at all. They're sitting there on maybe a date, or I don't know what they were doing,
Right.
but they weren't talking or connecting at all with each other. And I remember clear as day the sadness about that, and how much I was enjoying having this conversation with my friend across the table, and how important that is, talking about the joy, right? Talking about joy and how important that connection is. And then I'm going to share another experience. I was in a grocery store, and I have a few kids, and my daughter at the time was, I don't know, maybe a year old, and she's in the shopping cart, and there was somebody in the grocery store who was a grocery store worker, and they were like not mopping, but they were sweeping the floors, like with that kind of broom thing that you do, use it for the sweeping of the floors. And my daughter, who loved to smile, very joyful little child, just was like staring and smiling at this person until they looked up at her, and she just, with a huge smile, said hello. And the person looked to me and said, "She just said hello to me," with a huge smile on his face. Now, I don't know how many people said hello to this person working in the grocery store. Probably not a lot. But
Right.
the joy that it brought to this person, just a complete stranger, making this micro moment, this small little connection with someone, and just saying hi with a smile, and to see the joy that it put on someone's face, was such a teaching moment to me. And so now as we think about, this idea, and it's why I love this leave the feed, because human connection is so important. And we feel, James, we feel like we're connected to people when we're on a feed, right? When we're in the feed, I'm sure you have friends who are on social media. I have a lot of friends who make a lot of content on social media. Now, I can think of a lot of people in particular, like my friend Adam, who I've known for decades. I've taught him improv. I've been an improv teacher. I perform improv comedy. He is an enormous creator, and he makes really, really funny content, and it shows up in my feed, and I feel like I'm connecting with him. I feel like we're like buddies, that we have like a strong, but I haven't talked to him in a long time. And now as we're sitting here, I'm thinking, my goodness, I need to call him. I need to talk to him. But it's like this. It's this counterfeit connection that gets created on social media, where we feel like we are connecting with someone when we are not. We're not. We're enjoying what they're doing in front of us, but my friend, if I were to talk to him, he'd be like, "Oh, it's been so long," In my mind, it hasn't, but it really has, because we haven't actually personally, physically connected in a very, very long time. And that human connection is so important, whether it is with our loved ones or people that we know, or like we were talking about, just being out in public, expressing an act of kindness to someone, holding the door for someone, smiling, saying hello, making eye contact. Eye contact is so important. Eye contact is so important. How many times when we go to a store or to a Starbucks or to a grocery store or whatever, and how many times do we have the phone in our hands, we're getting something, we look down, we tap our card. How many times do we actually make eye contact with the person who's across the counter? I'm guilty of it. just as much as anyone else. But that eye contact that we can make with people creates connection. And it can be a basis for joy, to give kindness, to receive kindness in return. That is what true joy and mental health well-being is based on. So I think it's so important what you brought up and what the topic of this is. Because and me being able to be out and making that, I still remember a bunch of the people that, complete strangers who I've interviewed, because we're looking at each other's eyes, we're talking about something. I don't remember even what we've talked about, but we had that connection, and it brought joy into my, and when I think about it now, it puts a smile on my face when I think about these people that I've connected with. And so being out there, and this idea of, and sorry, James, I don't know if this is where we wanted to go, but this idea of leaving the feed and challenging ourselves to keep the phone in the pocket. What if you kept your phone at home and went on a walk? Heaven forbid. What if you went on a walk and left your phone at home, right? And noticed who the people were that were walking around, saying hello to the people that are walking around. Just doing some, what is it called? Not crowd surfing, crowd watching, right? It can be so beneficial for our mental health. I really believe that. I so strongly, because it can be so beneficial for our joy. And when we are kind to other people, that is such an incredible elixir to the wounds that we feel inside. And whenever somebody's hearing this, and if this makes the cut, so to speak, from Nerd HQ, we're going to be doing some really fun things, getting involved in some challenges that are going to revolve around this idea of like doing acts of kindness, doing daily acts of kindness, because that can be so powerful for our own well-being, not just someone else's mental health, but that can be so powerful for our own mental health. And get that phone out of your face and connect with the world around you and the people around you. It might not be a long-lasting relationship. That's fine. It's about these micro moments. And the more you engage in them, the better you feel.
Now, what would your advice be to someone that's going through this challenge that usually has their phone in hand? Maybe it's because they're creating content. Maybe it's because they're scrolling through content. And this whole idea of being present and being joyful with someone seems almost unorthodox, bizarre, because I'm used to having this crutch in my hands that is keeping me from that. What hope do you have for them as they re-enter the world, lift their heads up, and share that joy with other humans in these micro moments?
My hope is that we learn what it's like to be human again. That's what it is to be human, I feel like, is to be present and to connect with others. That is a critical part of humanity. So that's what I would say my hope is, that now, talking about the challenge and what advice would I give to people who are finding it challenging? Trust in humanity. Trust in being human. I guess the reason I say that is because, like, for instance, you can look up how to get somewhere on your phone, or you can ask somebody. You might not get the right answer if you ask somebody, but I mean, the point being, we start to depend on our phones for so many things, and it is convenient, and I get it. It is so convenient. And it's wonderful. It's wonderfully convenient. So when we have the challenge of not having that phone in our hands, my encouragement is to trust in humanity. Trust that you will enjoy being a human, not connected to a device. And you can trust others around you to help you experience what it's like to be human again. I wasn't planning on going into that, but that's what it feels like to me. Um, and there are emotions and there are feelings that you can only experience through those connections with the world around you and with other people around you, that a device cannot accurately replicate those feelings and emotions that you can experience. So that would be my hope, I think. And I think also the hope of, I would hope that we'd find it easier than we fear. Like ultimately we
Right.
find it easier and maybe actually find it liberating. Like that idea of leaving your phone at home and you go take a walk, that might be very fearful. And like, I don't know if I can be 50 yards away from my phone, but it becomes very liberating to be able to leave something like that and experience the world around you.
I love it. Super insightful, wonderful. You've been such an awesome guest, and you've brought up so many amazing themes that we can carry through us about reconnecting with the essence of being human, sharing those micro moments of joy, and just making sure that we're active participants and appreciating all the players that are on the stage of life with us. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate. You've been such a great guest.
Thank you, James.